is going on, baseball fans? We are live for this week's edition of This Week in Baseball presented by Diamond Digest. I am your host, Jordan Lazowski. I am joined by Sam Hicks, Jonah Keene, and Jordan Miller. Folks, how are we doing tonight?
Good.
I was going to say,
Good.
give me
Upset.
something here.
Yeah.
I mean, I get we're all bummed that at the great tease of the potential playoff races today, but we'll get to those. But
Bring back 2000s rules.
oh, you're trying to go backwards on this
I'm
one.
trying to go backwards.
Fair enough.
One
But we'll
wild
get to
card.
all this. We will definitely get to all of this as we get going today. Another great show. Basically, what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be previewing the playoffs to come this week. We are doing our last regular season episode. And I'm excited because for the first time in a very long time, I've got a team in the playoffs playing some meaningful baseball that's done something. I'm excited. We got both Jordans on this podcast that are very excited today, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to jump right into it. I will start. Usually this week, if the season ended today, when I standings updates, but instead, I'm going to just give you the playoff format. In the AL, the Rays will be facing either the Red Sox or the Yankees, who face off in the wild card. The Houston Astros have home field advantage over the White Sox. That will be the other matchup in the ALDS. On the National League side of things, the Giants won the NL West today. Took them only 100-something wins to do so. They will face off against either the Los Angeles Dodgers, who also won 100-something games, or the St. Louis Cardinals. They play in the NL wildcard game. They will be joined in the NLDS by the Milwaukee Brewers at home against the Atlanta Braves. Well, I mean, we'll get to more talk in seventh inning stretch when we talk a little bit more about the games. I don't know. I just can't help but be disappointed. I guess my biggest thing is for years, the Angels have not been playing winning baseball in October, and then all of a sudden they decided to win when nobody wanted them to win in October. And it's upsetting. But I don't know. Don't steal any of your thoughts from seventh inning stretch, but I'll give you guys some – give me your first reactions to the day that was today.
Disappointment.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, it didn't matter in the end because the Yankees and Red Sox pulled through and controlled their destiny, but I wanted chaos. I wanted fun. So,
Like, there's a
wish there
chance
was
we
more
got.
baseball to be played this week.
Yeah, I thought the Mariners were like a couple years ahead of themselves, and the Blue Jays are a really fun team to watch for sure. But we just get the boring Yankees Red Sox that no one wants to see, unless you're a Red Sox or a Yankees fan.
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, if you get the chance to control your own destiny, you deserve it, and I get it.
Fair.
At the same time, though, like I'm allowed to be frustrated with the result today because, like I said, for once, it's like you're looking at chaos, you're looking for some fun, and the Seattle Mariners were certainly a ton of fun. At the same time,
leaders.
Yeah, fun differential leaders, exactly.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they'll
I
be
just-
back. All four of those teams will be back
Mhm.
and into the thick of it. So,
I mean, that'll be something that we'll talk to in the future, I'm sure. It's just, you know, how do you keep this sort of excitement in the future? Like, yeah, no kidding. If your team's playing meaningful baseball in the last couple weeks of the season, like, oh, that's far more fun than what we'd usually do. Especially some of the rebuilding teams where you're just going out on the field to deal with it. But I don't want to steal too much more content from seventh inning stretch, so I'll turn it over to you guys. We will jump into Around the League in 60 seconds, which is when we give our recap of the week. Since no one on the panel here writes the questions except for me, there are things I undoubtedly miss when it comes to seventh inning stretch. These fine folks will give their recap of the week and highlight the things they think we should be highlighting. Jonah, since it's been forever since I've seen you on this podcast, we'll start with you.
I don't really have much. I mean, I'm a Mets fan, so this week was just filled with disappointment. And I think that the teams. So I think it's just going to be the sneaky teams because this entire week has been focused on the big race in the AL West, and I don't think that the White Sox or Astros have really been talked at all. And they're going to be good. Like we keep talking about the Rays, who they're going to face. I think that the Astros and White Sox could be the team to pull out, and no one's really been watching them for about a month unless you're a fan of the team. The storylines haven't been around them, and they're both still playing great baseball, and I think that's going to be something to watch for. That series is going to probably be better than the Rays versus whoever their AL East opponent is.
I think that's fair. I think when you have teams that have things locked up for as long as they have, it's not nearly as exciting as some of the other playoff races.
They're just still playing well, and it's not being talked about.
Exactly. I respect that. Sam, what you got?
My main takeaway is that the Cardinals are exercising their devil magic. Like, obviously, they went on that big old streak, but like they have the most momentum going into the playoffs by far, except for maybe the Yankees or Red Sox because they just pulled out by the skin of their teeth. But like, don't count out the Cardinals. They could like, I don't know who they're going to start, but like any of those geriatric guys, I think could feasibly give the Dodgers a run for their money in a one-game series.
Yeah, the Cardinals continue to be the team that, you don't talk about too much, but at the same time, it's not going to take much for them to sneak past the Dodgers. It's going to take one good start from Wainwright, a couple bad pitches from whoever decides to start for the Dodgers, and then all of a sudden, oh, guess what? A team with 100 and something wins just all of a sudden is sitting at home. And that's the beauty of baseball. That's the ugly of it, too. Jordan, what else you got, my fellow White Sox fan?
Yeah, I kind of like to see how the Sox take 6 of 7 the last year, even though they played really good at home. So that was kind of expected. So I really wanted them to get some momentum going into the playoffs. So I was really happy about that for this week. Yeah, the Cardinals are definitely the talk of the NL for right now. They're really hot. Their outfield came alive, and somehow they found J.A. Happ and John Lester to be useful at the trade deadline, and that was like the one trade no one saw coming. And the Dodgers and Giants, 2 100-win teams you didn't think would be like one's a wild card team and one's the winner of the West. So that's going to be interesting. And then, the Red Sox and Yankees killed fun today. So that's really it. So, but I'm really just looking forward to Thursday for me for the most part. So,
yeah, I'm gonna blend this into sort of a talk about 7th inning stretch because we already kind of discussed the first question, and I kind of want to still build on it. I mean, after today, and that's why I kind of miss Christian being on this one because I want to get his thoughts as an Angels fan, how he was feeling after today. Because, your team won and really screwed your divisional opponent. But at the same time, it's like everybody was rooting for the Mariners. I feel like it would be hard, even if you were a fan of the Angels, not to kind of in the back of your mind be like, it'd be cool to see them do this. I mean, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. What are your thoughts on, how you'd feel about potentially taking down a rival in a situation like that? I don't know how I feel about that, truthfully. I'll open that up to anyone.
As long as it's not the Marlins. It's happened too many times to the Mets. If I'm the Mets, I'm ruining their playoffs. So the Marlins playoff hopes every year. Revenge for 2007.
I mean, that's kind of the thing, though. It's like, how do you... I get when you have those very specific examples. But at the same time, I'm sitting here like... I don't know, Jordan, you might have, I guess you probably have some hate for division rivals that I kind of like. I just don't really get that mad. I don't know if that's a hot take. It probably is. I don't get that mad over division rivals. How would you feel in this situation? I guess I'm asking.
Well, to put it in an AL Central perspective, I mean, I hate the Twins the most, and I'm just really happy they just from saying, oh, the Twins had an off season and they finished in last place. And then the Tigers were the surprise team, who were basically, I think, the one team I'm afraid of in the coming years, because they got just so many young pitchers coming up, and they got young prospects coming, and Torkelson and there's a Riley Green. And then the Royals look like they'll probably want to spend, and then Indians continue to have their pitching. So I definitely know how it feels to have division rivals, and so yeah, I would. And then we played the Tigers this weekend, and we had some bad blood from last weekend. So winning that series, I think, was important to fuel them into the playoffs. Even though the Tigers were a third place team, but still, I think we're playing a division rival that caused a big problem and make a game no one wanted to play. And it seemed to really fuel this team up in the final stretch, was really good. So when you can do it against a rival in the division, I think it does help.
Now, Sam, who are you a team of or a fan of?
I'm a Reds fan.
You're a Reds fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a Reds fan, I will take the opportunity to kill the playoff hopes of any NFL team. Hate the Cardinals, hate the Pirates, hate the Cubs, to a lesser extent the Brewers, but they're just too good. I would love to end their playoff chances. Yeah, I'm completely unopposed to this idea that, oh man, but it's such a good story. No, you want your rivals to lose.
And don't get me wrong, I get that. I just, at the same time, I sit here, I'm like, it would have been fun. Maybe I'd feel differently.
I think it could be partly that it was just they were out of it until like the last 2 weeks of the season, and then they started putting that push together. So it's just like no one was expecting it, and then at the last day we're here, and we can't have. If it was to end the wild card, I would. But I think people also just wanted to see 162. I can understand people wanting to just see the chaos, not necessarily ending their playoff. I understand. As a rival, I would want to end their playoff hopes, but as a baseball fan, I can understand hoping that they win for the chaos and more extra baseball and all that.
That's fair. I probably would feel a very different way if the Sox were involved, and that's why I'm like,
yeah.
I'd probably be like, yeah, I hope we beat the Twins 15-2, and they don't see the playoffs anytime soon. I don't know.
Yeah, it's extra games you don't want to play. It kind of wears you down for the playoffs. So I understand that part, but a fan from the outside, you want to see it.
Yeah.
Obviously, as in kind of an observer to this AL wildcard race, of course, I want the Mariners to win.
Right.
And I want the Red Sox to lose. But if I'm a fan of a team that's playing spoiler, I want them to spoil.
Yeah.
I want them to have that last good moment.
That's fair. I think. Yeah, I see what you're all saying. I mean, again, I think I'd feel more strongly if I was watching the White Sox in that position. So I think that's completely fair. So, well, I don't think we missed much. I think Oniel Cruz, is that how you say his name?
I think it's Oniel Cruz.
Oniel Cruz. I think that was, hold on real quick. I'm going to pull up this comment because this is the first and the last time this comment will ever be made. Nice. Yeah. Also surprising that comes from Peyton, given what I put him through some days. But I guess, yeah, at the end of the day, it was a tease that just never came to be. And it kind of stinks because of that. But at the same time, I get it.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling of, I want to crush them. And I guarantee I'd probably feel differently if my team was there. So let's jump into our main segment, 7th inning stretch. Technically, we've taken one of the first questions. Good thing I added a bonus question, an extra inning of sorts. I'm so creative. Thank you, Sam. It's a free point.
Oh my God, a point.
The pity clap will get you everywhere. So we will jump into something stretch. If you're new to this, if you're just seeing this for the first time, what we do, 7 questions in a very around the horn type format. Everyone gets their chance to give their opinion. I award points based on absolutely everything arbitrary and nothing objective. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think I lost 95-77 last time I was on.
I heard Diego likes to run the points up.
Oh,
I don't usually run the points up. But
I think I think my first week on, the high score was like 30 something. Granted,
Yeah.
this was season 1.
Yeah, I usually keep the point totals lower, but Diego likes to run wild. It's his show to run at that point. But anywho, let's jump in. We took inning 1, which was all about today's tease. Let's jump into inning 2. Some big news for the Dodgers, who just will be a 105-win team, 4-win team, whatever it is, in the wild card. You got to hate it if you're a fan of them, especially with this news. Clayton Kershaw was placed on the injured list this week with concerns over his elbow, and the Dodgers are acting as if he will be out for the season. Meanwhile, during today's season finale, Max Muncy appeared to hurt his elbow fielding a throw at first base. Runner ran right into his arm on a throw from, I believe it was the catcher. I guess we'll start with Jonah on his return. How badly do these injuries hurt the Dodgers' chances of going far in the playoffs?
It's huge. I don't think that they'll lose in the wild card still, but they're going to now have to face. They had the matchups to face the Brewers pitching wise. And the Braves offense is amazing. I don't think they'll. Oh wait, they wouldn't play the. They would have to play the Giants. I just realized I am dumb.
Yeah.
They would have to play the Giants, but I think that the Muncy injury is a lot bigger. I guess they'll have Pujols playing first place, which creates an excellent storyline. I would love to see him end the Cardinals season. Just always amazing. Have that storyline. I actually was going to are we still doing things to watch for or predicting something?
Of
I was
course.
going to say I was going to maybe sneak that in there. That might be the storyline of the entire postseason. Him having like a big hit in the top of the ninth to win it. But I think the Kershaw injury would have been a lot less bad I'm not upset about this, but if the Dodgers still have Bauer, but now they're down 2 of their front line, their top A1 and A2 starter from the beginning of the season, and I think that they don't have the depth to face off against a very good Giants pitching staff, and they'll have to do it on the offensive side now, which they still have a great lineup, but they might have to put up more runs than expected, and without Muncy, it's not going to matter. Like they're losing I think he led the team in home runs, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's a big blow. I think they'll lose in the NLDS now.
Sam, your thoughts?
I'm completely opposed to this idea that this kills their chances at the NLDS. They still have a 3-headed monster. Scherzer, Buehler, Arias. Those are 3 amazing pitchers. And then to fill in the Muncy hole, you got Beede. You got Beede and Pujols to fill that hole if you need them. Like, sure, it hurts a bit, but really, how much does that affect them winning in such a short sample size? Like, Kershaw's struggles in the postseason are noted. Like, can you even trust Kershaw to perform well if he is in the postseason? I think Pujols playing at first base might actually turn out to be a net positive over Muncy, given his he's been in the playoffs more than anyone I think in baseball. Like, I think that this is still the best team in baseball is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like, I can't really see a reason how 2 players who weren't the cream of the crop on their team, even though they would be the cream of the crop on any other team, how 2 players can kill their chances. That's just a ridiculous notion for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Jordan, break the tie here. What do you got?
I think it does hurt them getting past the ALDS, but I think they're okay for the ALDS because it is a short series. And I do agree with Sam that Urias, Buehler, and Scherzer will carry them for sure. Their lineup is still really deep. You still got Mookie Betts, still got, Beede will fill in, Seager, Pollock. This is a lot of good players. That team, they got a really good bullpen. Blake Trinan, Kenley Jansen turned it around his career a little bit. I still think they got a really good team. I think it really hurt them. They probably would have passed the Giants if they had Dustin May and they would have had Trevor Bauer not do stupid stuff. So I think, and then obviously getting Trey Turner and Scherzer were helpful to get them where they are, but they had the deepest team going into the year, and they're going to be fine in the LDS, I think. But I just think in the ALCS, they might have some problems with maybe pitching depth, maybe. But I think their lineup is still very stacked, and they're fine.
So where does this team end up? I'll just go quickly around the horn here. We'll start back with Jonah. You said NLDS, they lose.
NLDS, they lose.
Sam, where does this team end up?
If I had to place bet, I think they lose to the Brewers in the NLCS.
Jordan?
I think I'll go with that too. The list of Brewers and LCS.
Interesting. Very split opinions here. I don't know where I fall because I see both sides of it. I think I don't know how much longer this Cardinals Devil Magic's going to last. I don't know how much longer this Giants General Magic is going to last. I don't know. I think it creates a fun corner of the bracket between those three teams, between the Dodgers, Giants, and Cardinals. Because, I mean, you see how it should play out on paper, but nothing's played out as it should on paper all season. Let's jump into inning 3 and talk about some of these matchups that have been set for at least a little bit. Houston and Chicago, and Milwaukee and Atlanta. We'll start with the person who's a fan of one of these teams, Jordan. Of those two matchups, which is more intriguing? I wonder which one you'll pick. And
course,
I also wonder, I was going to say, and also I wonder who you think comes away victorious in each of these series.
Of course, Houston and Chicago is the most intriguing to me because I am a fan of the White Sox. It's reminiscent of 05 for sure. Obviously, two very different looking teams from 16 years ago. But like I said, I think the Sox have a legitimate shot, regardless of not being at home, to win this series. They have the pitching, the bullpens come around. The lineup seems to be clicking at the right time to hang with this deep Astros team who now have Kyle Tucker and Bregman healthy, who they didn't have when we faced them before, which kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, I still think we get deep enough to take us to a game 4 or a game 5. As long as we steal one game in Houston, I think we have a shot, and that's what I think we need to do because we're so unbeatable at home. We have one of the best home records, if not the best. I haven't looked at the home standings, but we have a really good home record. So I think we definitely have a shot. And any person who thinks the Sox can't beat the Astros is really sleeping, and it doesn't make sense to me as a realistic take. Either team can come away in that series for sure. But yeah, like I said, the Sox will take that series. Brewers, Braves. I think the Brewers pitching is just too deep, and the Braves just lost a lot. Yeah, they lost Acuna. They made some great moves at the deadline, getting a lot of outfielders to fill the gaps, and I just don't think they're deep enough with the pitching to get past the Brewers. And even the Brewers lost Devin Williams to a stupid move to punch a wall. I know you're celebrating and you think you're invincible.
We didn't talk about that enough.
I know you think you're invincible when you're drunk and you're just really happy to celebrate. I'm guessing what happened. I don't know if it was a fight that happened, but when you're drunk, you just think you're invincible and you're celebrating. I get it, but that really hurts the bullpen for the Dodgers. Them and Hader were basically, two-headed monster, but I still think their starting pitching is deep enough, and that lineup grinds too, and Willie Adames and Yelich got a little bit better down the stretch, and they still got some really good players that will, I think, will carry them in that series against the Braves.
Sam, your thoughts?
I think by far this Chicago-Houston series is far more intriguing. I mean, my take is that these are the two most comparable teams in baseball. They're both really good offensively, not the best. They're both really good, defense and pitching wise, not the best. This creates a great matchup. And if I had to pick, I would give it to the Astros just because I think that, frankly, it's a more experienced postseason team. Like most of those guys, despite all the controversy, they know how to handle the lights. They know how to handle the pressure. And they've had to do it all season with all the criticism. And I think the Brewers will absolutely demolish the Braves.
Interesting. That's strong. That's
Burns,
a strong belief.
Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, Noah Acuna. You have three guys that I think will easily shut down that Atlanta offense, even no matter how good it is, because they're just that elite. And then you got who's going to even start for the? You got Max Fried for the Braves. Like even like a slightly above average hitter like Avisail Garcia, I could see him having a great performance. Like you get, I think all of those like kind of average to above average role players on the Brewers will rake against the Braves just because I don't think their pitching is strong enough.
Jonah, what are you thinking?
I think that I'll agree with them that the White Sox Houston series is probably the more intriguing. I think the games will be a lot more close. They're just better teams in my opinion. I think it will create a lot of fun. And I think that we will see the White Sox come out of it. This is not case of point. I think that they will be. I was not
good
going to the
answer.
point.
I like the answer.
I think that they are hungry after last season. I think that Houston has the depth, but they have not. I don't think that their pitching is going to carry through like it has in the past because the Astros teams, as good as the hitting has been, they've also been able to get the depth out of their starters, which I'm not sure that they'll be able to carry it on. Even though their bullpen is still really good, I don't think they'll get the depth down their starters like they have in the past. I think that the Brewers are going to win the series. Also, I think it'll be a lot closer. I remember the narrative last year was about how the Braves pitching just dominated during the playoffs. I know that they're not as healthy this year, and I do still like their depth, but I think the Brewers pitching is just too overpowering overall.
I mean, especially in these short series, it's going to be far more important to have good pitching. I actually really liked, excuse me, Sam's comment on the similarity between the two teams, the Astros and the White Sox. I think kind of what Jordan was saying too. If you can get back from Houston 1-1, if you're the White Sox, you're in good shape. But that also kind of depends on where Carlos Rodon's going to be at. I think that pitching staff has a question mark still left in it, but I think I'm going to agree on the other side of things that the Brewers should pretty easily take care of that series, just based on pitching alone.
Jordan,
And
are
I
you
think
at all worried about the health of the White Sox starters because they haven't really proven to throw this many innings?
I am and I'm not. I'm concerned for the fact that we haven't seen these guys go this deep before, especially Cease. I don't think it's a health thing at this point anymore. I think, well, Rodon, it's a health thing.
Yeah.
I think for the other guys, it's more just so an experience thing. And I think that comes with a young team, but at the same time, it's it's the same thing that it's always been. Hit the ball out of the ballpark, the team's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting question to try and ponder. So I do think that ends up being the better series, though. I could see going 4 or 5 games where I could see the Brewers being done in 3 and calling it a series. So, all right, let's talk a little bit more about today's wild card race because I'm curious about this. Fact or fiction? The AL wild card race this year is proof that there should be no expanded playoffs once the current CBA ends in December, because we know this has certainly been plenty talked about. Let's start with Sam. Your thoughts?
I think this is absolutely fiction. Like, sure, it creates some exciting moments, but you have to think pretty sure every other permutation of games won and lost would have given you a game 163. Any other amount of playoff teams would have given you a game 163. I think most years you end up with this scenario where there is a very, very good team that gets left out of the playoffs. A team that could have done very well. Like, I think the Blue Jays this year could have made some noise. Years past, I think the Cleveland in 2019, I believe, good squad, they could have done something. Like, I don't like this idea of having 8 playoff teams seems a bit ridiculous to me, but like, I think the idea of just having 6 playoff teams, I think that's a great idea because it eliminates the security you may have. You think, oh, I won the division. I am invincible to this wild card round. Basically sets up so the worst division winner doesn't go far just because they won the division, because I think that's a ridiculous idea in this playoff structure anyway.
Interesting. Jonah, your thoughts?
I'm on the exact same page as Sam. I think that I also am pro a 12-team playoff with 6 teams in each league. That's been my opinion since we started discussing the expanded playoffs. 14 is too much, 16 is too much, but 12 is, I think, going to be the sweet spot. And honestly, we wouldn't have had a play-in game in the end, but I think this Blue Jays team, they would have ended up facing the White Sox. I think the Blue Jays team this year would have been a compelling series also. Like, they lined up on paper pretty much evenly to the White Sox, just like the Astros do, maybe slightly worse than the Astros, but I think it would have given us a compelling series that honestly could have gone to 5 and maybe even seen the upset happen. And good teams are going to get left out regardless of what happens, no matter how many teams you have. But I think that this is just further proof that we need expanded playoffs.
Jordan, care to make it 3 for 3?
Yes, I'm going to go fiction too. I'll just start. Yeah, my dad's a huge advocate of no expanded playoffs. He wants to keep it the way it is, but I know it's going to hurt the traditionalists a lot. But you know what? I saw a lot of takes that people liked the March Madness kind of flavor we got last year, of like all the games starting at once, and I thought that was really fun. And yeah, I think we definitely the more teams, the more revenue for the sport, more revenue for the teams. It keeps more teams feel like they have a chance. And yeah, I agree. 8 is too many. 6 does seem like a good number. So. And you also get storylines out of it if you have more teams in. And like Sam said, the team that made a run like the Blue Jays or the 2019 Indians, those teams would have a shot because they get to show off that they still were a good team, even though they didn't win a division or they didn't maybe just miss the wild card. They still would have a shot. But yeah, 8 is a little bit too many, but 16, I agree, is definitely perfect.
I find it interesting because you kind of see both sides of the argument is or at least what I've seen on Twitter as both sides of the argument is, well, then teams aren't incentivized to spend because they can get in without without having to overly spend how much on their salary. So maybe a team doesn't go out and really augment their roster at the end of at the end of the trade deadline or something like that. But at the same time, it's also a revenue play for the league, because you have to think at the same time. More teams means more teams in means more fan bases that care in September, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. You do have to incentivize winning the division still. I think that's important. But other than that, I see no reason why you can't expand and add that extra team and keep 2 extra fan bases really invested in September and October.
Just to carry over that, incentivizing teams to spend, the Rays somehow do this every year. They can't spend, and they just have great player development and just find ways to get their pitchers to pull off some amazing things, and same with the players too. And then the Dodgers, same thing. They really know how to develop, but they spend like crazy. So it just they surprise just the Rays of defeat that narrative. You have to spend, and the Dodgers do both. They develop and spend, so They build off on that.
No, that makes sense. I'll go ahead, Sam.
I think that going off that, I think that hopefully, I mean, it's kind of a long shot, but I would certainly hope that some kind of a salary floor gets implemented. Because even though what the Rays do is incredible, is it healthy for the game to have certain teams be forced to run on shoestring budgets because of cheap owners? Is that desirable? Even though it works for the Rays, does it work for anyone else?
That's a good point. Just because you're running. Oh, go ahead.
If you look at it, the Yankees had to use every dollar of their additions and trades. Like, I don't know if they're necessarily here without Gallo. Like, they easily could have lost 2 more games and not been in the wild card game. I think that if you look at the teams, they all had to spend.
Yeah.
But pretty much, like, I think that it will, especially if you're competing, it will not necessarily in the offseason, it will encourage you to spend, but at the trade deadline, I think it will encourage you to spend, and we'll see a lot more of those prospect trades that we all love.
I think that makes sense. I think at the end of the day, it's hard to not want more teams in, to be honest with you.
I will acknowledge the fact that Gallo has kind of been since joining the Yankees. So
I think as long as you incentivize winning the division, that however you decide to do it, that should be enough to keep it in perspective, and you won't have teams just randomly not spending. So I have a hard time seeing an argument against adding at least one more team. So just my 2 cents. Jump to inning 5 here. The storylines around the Padres continue to develop. Obviously did not make the playoffs this year. And this week, The Athletic put out an article surrounding GM AJ Preller talking about just some of his micromanagement and some of how he's decided to handle some of his difficulties with the club. And while it was rumored and then denied that the Padres were firing Jace Tingler, is it clear that Preller survives yet another losing season? Or does some of the information in the article from The Athletic make it clear that Preller should be on his way out too? And if you'd like, add your thoughts on what they should do with Jace Tingler. We'll start with Jonah.
It's hard to say, honestly. I think that you can't really you can't really let him go another season after the historic collapse that the Padres had. They had such a good start. But at the same time, he made a lot of additions that were supposed to make the team better. And you can't argue with his additions. Darvish has been fantastic the past couple of years. So has Musgrove, and he threw a no-hitter this year, and I think he was their highest WAR pitcher in the end. Like, you can't necessarily argue with the moves he made, but at the same time, it's a historic collapse, and the way he's handled the situation is not. I think that the Padres have the team, and they'll continue to build on it, but I don't see Preller or Tingler surviving this after what happened this season.
Interesting. Jordan, your thoughts?
I think Preller is safe because I do agree with Jonah. He did make the right moves. They went crazy with trading for pitchers, Snell, Darvish, and Musgrove. All great trades. They had the young talent to get those deals done. Because they had to get over Clevenger and Lamet being injured and McGore clearly not being ready yet. So they had to make those moves. They had a very deep offense. I mean, taking one of the greater talents in baseball, who we traded away for James Shields. But
bringing up that trade loses you a point. I don't like it.
I mean, okay.
It's all right.
I don't even care. No, actually, to be honest, I don't even care about the trade. It's fine. I'm over it. And people get too upset about it. So I just only said that out of frustration because people get so mad about it for no reason.
I agree with that.
I think the Bray Rutherford trade was much worse than that trade. So because that ended up getting us nothing. But yeah. I think Tingler has to be the one to take the fall here. He had a team to go far. But they did have a lot of pitching injuries that it got so bad that they had to go scoop up Jake Arrieta from the Cubs scrap. But that was a destined to fail. They had to go grab Russ Detweiler from the Marlins, who we know very well in the Sox. they had to go grab just a bunch of random players to keep their pitching afloat. And that was bad. And then, Tatis and Machado had this fight in the dugout that ultimately killed the dugout, killed the morale of the team. And everyone thought that Frazier deal was great. And that guy ended up, regressing to the mean and being kind of like who we thought he was, just a guy who had a hot first start to the season, who really didn't help him that much. So, but they had a stacked team from the start. And I also don't like how they handled Tatis. He had 3 different shoulder injuries and still hit 40-plus home run, which is crazy as it is. And they put him in right field because he had so many errors throughout the year. But I think they should have definitely given him shoulder surgery because that hurts him long term, given the contract they gave him. So I think that was really dumb how they mishandled that. So you can give Preller all the rep for that. That's fair. But I think Tingler's more at fault, but I think Preller set him up pretty well for the season to start. Just the clubhouse is kind of lost at the end, and that was their demise to have a losing season after a season that looked so promising.
Sam, your thoughts?
I'm going to start by saying I think AJ Preller is a bad GM. Just straight up bad. Because
I like that.
Remember when the Padres had one of the best farm systems in baseball? Like, that was the thing, like, a couple years ago. They had the best farm system in baseball. AJ Preller killed it to win now. He has the opportunity, with the pieces he has at his disposal, if he just stood pat, maybe they don't come particularly close. Maybe they win less games this year. But I think he could have a great GM, I think, builds a dynasty with that good of a team and that good of a farm system. Ridiculous, he made all these trades. Yeah, he killed the farm system for short-term assets. That's what teams did in the 90s and what Billy Beane rectified. So I think this, and sure, Jay Singler, he's certainly a manager. He certainly made some questionable decisions, but does he really deserve to be fired? No, he's just an okay manager that gets put under a microscope.
Interesting. I don't know how I feel about this because in many respects he's made the correct moves, and I know you're going to say, Sam, not necessarily, but if you go out and you trade for Joe Musgrove, you trade for Yu Darvish. Who else did they trade for on the pitching side? You trade for Blake Snell, and you do that all in one offseason. That's supposed to win you a lot of ball games. Now the ones I think are a little less.
How many ball games does it win you in 3 or 4 years though? That's
right. Well, but the thing is, this team is built for if you're trying to beat the Dodgers, you got to build this team now. Otherwise, where I do fault, Preller is some of the free agent signs. I think the Hosmer deal was a brutal one, and everybody knew it from the beginning. And you saw that as being something that could hamstring a team when it comes to some of the funds available to him. I thought that was a horrible, horrible signing I think everybody kind of had a feeling it might be. I think the Austin Nola trade wasn't fantastic. It kind of felt like something you traded just to trade. So I get both sides of it, but you look at that team on paper, and if it's healthy, does it end up a little bit differently? I don't know. I think it'll be an interesting situation to see when they bring back Clevenger next year. And you hope to get this team a little bit healthier. I could see Preller making an argument for himself, give me one more year because XYZ happened. We were injured. We were the best team in baseball for a little bit. I don't know. I do think Tingler's gone, though. Someone's got to take the fall. And if the dugout is as cancerous as that article made it out like it was, he's got to go. Which is unfortunate for him, but you can't control your clubhouse. That's your biggest job as a manager. Anybody can fill out a lineup card at this point.
Dusty Baker experience.
Well, the Astros look pretty good though. So
They will. I think they will die at some point because Dusty Baker.
that's fair. I forget you're a Reds fan, so that's fair.
2012. That team was something special. I may have been 6 at the time, but god dang it.
He knew it. You're 15 years old?
Yes.
Jeez, okay. I wish I knew this much about baseball at 15. Anywho, let's jump to inning number 6. The 2020s have not been kind to Cody Bellinger. After an above average, but still below standard season in 2020, and a 2021 that's been pretty pitiful in terms of some of the numbers he's been putting up. I think it's about a 50 WRC plus. Just that's enough for you to kind of get the sense of how he's doing this year. What should the Dodgers do with him in the playoffs? Do you keep putting him in the lineup? How about as they head into 2022? Is a trade at least worth exploring? He would have 2 years worth of control. Let's start with the guy who watches a lot of National League Baseball, Jonah.
I admittedly have not watched a lot of Dodger baseball.
But you watch a lot of National League Baseball, which is good enough.
It not as much as I would like to with work, but I do think I haven't been watching that much tape. I wonder if there's something in his swing, because when he made that jump, I think there was a slightly different. He made an adjustment from his rookie season to his breakout season in 2019, where he made an adjustment in his swing. I don't know if his swing has changed. That could be something to look into. I think for the playoff sake, though, don't play him. They might need to play him at first base, so they might not have a choice. I know they have Didi, but with Muncy gone, they might need to play him at first base. I think he can still produce at a major league level. I think that they don't necessarily need him when they're healthy, and that if they can get like a mid-level prospect or two, then they 100% should explore the trade. The Dodgers would be fine without him, and they should be trading him in the offseason to a team that can use a depth piece, or honestly a starting utility piece, an outfielder at first base. I think that in the playoffs he should be a bench guy. He was also known for his defense. I know he's been struggling defensively this year, especially if they're going to need him at first base. But when it's the playoffs, you need every depth piece you can have. I think he can still produce as he has shown in 2019 and even a bit so in 2020. If I remember correctly, he had a very solid postseason last year.
Jordan, your thoughts?
Yeah, it seems he did a little too much celebrating potentially in that World Series and popped his shoulder out of its socket, and may have caused some things for him. Maybe the doctor screwed up on that shoulder surgery. I don't know, but this kid's swing is out of whack, and it's definitely hurt him. As we can see throughout a whole 162, OPS is slugging's down under 300. OPS is like almost like the 500s. Like he's definitely not the same person who we thought he was. Like when he in 18, 19, he was like the B. But yeah, I do agree. It does kill their depth a little bit. They have Chris Taylor and Gavin Lux helping out in the outfield too. So, but yeah, he's going to have to help at first base. A Muncy gone, so he might still be counted on. But and I definitely do think the Dodgers should explore if they can get the right deal done for him. Sure, because they know they can spend, they can find an outfielder. They were able to, turn Verdugo into Mookie Betts, and Verdugo's a great player. So obviously that's not going to be a similar deal that happened with this kind of Bellinger, because everyone knew what Verdugo could do. But if you could get something for him, the way your player development is, the way you spend, you can recover if Bellinger isn't who he thought he was, or if the shoulders screwed him up from last year. I have faith that they would figure it out if they had to ultimately trade him and they get the right pieces back. And yeah, and like I said, it's going to be really up to their depth and their pitching to carry them without Bellinger, Muncy potentially, and Kershaw this postseason.
Sam, your thoughts?
I think that this idea that they should trade Cody Bellinger, it's absurd. They have not committed money to him. His value is at an all-time low. The Dodgers are playing with house money right now. Why not work on some things in the offseason? See if he can just, maybe he won't go back to MVP form. If they can just make him an average to an above-average player, boom, his trade value goes back up to just, he could be a piece. He's not going to be a centerpiece anymore, but maybe he can go back to being a piece. As of right now, I don't see any team wanting him. And if there's any organization that can fix a player, it's the Dodgers. So, don't trade him. I mean, maybe use him sparingly in the postseason because he hasn't been doing well. But there's an entire offseason for him to figure it out, to figure out what he's doing wrong. And Dodgers are just so good at making players great. There's no reason why they can't do that with Cody Bellinger again.
Yeah, I would say ultimately trade him. I just think that you can't throw it out unless they get the right deal. But yeah, they could definitely fix it if it's possible.
I think it's an interesting question because it's something where he's only got 2 years of control, and you might be able to sell a team on him. But at the same time, if he turns into the old Cody Bellinger, you're going to have tough questions to answer to, even if you are the Los Angeles Dodgers and you can afford just to trade him. I do think, I forget who mentioned Chris Taylor, but the status of Chris Taylor heading into next year is an important one, because if you don't bring him back and someone else signs him away, that's kind of a big piece you lose.
He's so valuable.
He is a great utility player.
Exactly.
Whatever he wants.
It's much more difficult to say trade Cody Bellinger if all of a sudden Chris Taylor isn't an option anymore. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I think it's worth they at least kick the tires on, because if you can get a team to not overpay, but at least your definition of an overpay, if you're the Dodgers, you might as well try and take it. He's got enough name recognition that some team's going to try it if you dangle the name out there. I think it'd be an interesting way they decide to handle it. So
you should always listen. You never know.
Yeah, you're the Dodgers. You're going to find
they have such a deep team that they can, and they spend a lot, that if they got the right deal, they can get around it.
Jonah, you're saying let Conforto walk and try Bellinger?
No.
I'm saying let Conforto walk his way to the south side of Chicago.
I'll take it.
For one, I would say that the Rockies would be a great destination for Bellinger, but all they do is they draft, they scout, and develop. No other team.
I saw that. That was funny.
And then someone posted like all their recent draft picks. It's like, are you sure you do? I don't know. I'd be curious to see what sort of price tag is on him. It would be, I don't know. You feel like it should be high, but also it's only 2 years of control. He's in arbitration. He already made $12 million this year. He's going to make an increase in arbitration again. And 2 years of control to not be great. I don't know. I think to have the risk of him not being great, I guess I should say. It's an interesting proposal. I don't know.
They're the Dodgers. They will draft, they will scout, and they will develop. So.
Well, yeah, the Dodgers will do that.
Yeah.
I mean, so will the Rockies. Just they'll do it poorly.
And they'll spend on top of it.
On Ian Desmond.
They'll give away their money.
Ian Desmond, all-star caliber player to this day.
I don't know. You even, not to change subject, but you saw some of the, I don't know if you saw some of the stuff on the Phillies come out too. How like they never had an identity for their player development system. It's like, yeah, we knew that. It didn't take much watching that, but I don't know. In today's day and age, kind of to the point of all of this, the Dodgers can only have a conversation like trading Cody Bellinger if they do everything else really well. They draft well, they scout well, they develop their guys well. You can't have those conversations if you don't do that. And it's kind of a testament to the type of team they build and continue to build. Let's head into inning number 7 here. Let's get back into some playoff preview. Let's do some predictions. Last season, Randy Arozarena took the playoffs by storm by hitting .377, .442, .831 as his slash line in the playoffs. Simple answer here, folks. And we'll start with Jordan. Predict who becomes this year's Randy Arozarena.
Luis Robert.
All right.
Easy choice.
I mean, the kid has the same tools, if not better tools than Randy Arozarena. So, and he has the same ability. He can field, he can hit for power, he can hit it to all fields, and he's a freak athlete. After the injury he came back from, tearing his hip, beats his timeline by like half a month or a month, and has probably one of the best Septembers I've ever seen. Very similar to his teammate Yasmani Grandal, but yeah.
Now you're pandering, but I'll give a point.
All right.
Oh God, Yasmani Grandal.
They both had great Septembers, and I'm very surprised how good Grandal's doing after that bum knee for sure. So, but yeah, he's young enough. He has the tools. He could definitely have a playoff run like Arozarena did. Hit home runs, play great defense, show off some speed, keep the line moving, batting second in that lineup, which is a great spot for him. And as long as the Sox go far, I think he's going to be one of the catalysts for the reason why they go far in the playoffs for sure.
Sam.
I am not going to take the cop-out answer.
Hey, I respect it. I respect both pandering and saying you're
I'm
not
going to take Andrew Vaughn.
Oh, okay. You still pander.
I picked him beforehand.
All right.
I don't know how much he's going to play this playoffs now, to be honest with you.
Did we know how much Randy would play at the beginning of last season?
That's a good point.
Yeah. I think he's just this X factor guy. I think he's just a great pure hitter. He may not bring that speed or defense that Arozarena did, but I think he could just hit so well that doesn't matter. Like, he has the ability to go on a run, like Arozarena's, and I think that he's the most likely to go on that kind of run.
Jonah, your thoughts?
First, I'm going to say I'm a bit surprised neither of them said the person in the Randy Arozarena situation in Wander Franco, but I think he's in the exact same situation in my opinion, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's him, but I'm going to go Duvall, and my only hesitation with going Adam Duvall is I'm a bit worried. As I said, I don't think they're making it out of that series. So I don't know if we'll be able to put up the numbers without getting out of that series. But if the Braves are going to win the series, Adam Duvall is going to need to be MVP. And Duvall was leading he was either first or second in RBIs on the Marlins before he got traded over to the Braves. He is a guy that has been hitting for power all year. He's been hitting for RBIs all year, driving in runs. He's been better about average, and he's now playing every single day because of the injuries in the Braves outfield. I also think that over the seasons, we have seen Duvall as one of the streakiest hitters in baseball and a guy that can go on a 7-home run in like 5-game stretch easily. So I'm going to take Duvall, and my only hesitation is that I don't know if he'll be able to put up the same numbers because I'm not sure the Braves make it out of that series.
That's fair.
How dare you claim that RBIs matter? How dare you?
Yeah, remember what podcast this is. No, but
yeah, remember what organization you kind of work for, but kind of don't.
You know what? This has been a fun 7th inning stretch. Everybody's gonna win here today.
Okay.
I couldn't pick the winner.
I think the Andrew Vaughn take was very bold by Sam. I mean,
I will say that is a bold take.
Considering where he's at right now, how when he just, it seemed like he hit a wall, and maybe the back used to creeping up on him a little bit. But I'm not surprised. This is the most games he's ever played in his career. He skipped 2 levels of minor league baseball. But
TP God, gotta respect it.
But I do agree though. The draft pedigree's there, the tools are there. He's going to be a great hitter for the Sox, and the Sox strength is developing first baseman. So I do agree that they're going to be able to get the best out of this kid, and I think he'll be definitely in the outfield mix next year. And he played great outfield, way better than I expected. And me and Jordan were worried about that for sure, how that would translate. And even in right field, he started getting better at it, and he's passed every benchmark. So I think he's definitely going to be fine as an outfield piece with, Sheets, Angle, and right field next year. That's going to be very valuable if Abreu decides to sign another contract after next year. So
I think it's a tough one to pick.
Yeah.
I think this is hard because you don't know who's just going to end up turning it on. I think it's I do like the Wander Franco pick, and I also do like the Adam Duvall pick. I don't know. For the first time, and this is going to lead right into our extra innings question here. I don't know which team I feel quote unquote safe enough about to feel like they're going to go on a Rosarena type run, and that their team's not going to be out after 3 games, and it's going to be all for nothing. But let's get into our extra inning before what to watch for this week. 1-word answer here. Predict the 2021 World Series champion. Sam.
I'm going to have to. I wrote an article about them a few weeks ago. Got to go with the Brewers.
I like the pick. Jonah.
Was about to say the same thing.
All right, that's fine. Jordan.
I'm a homer. The White Sox.
You know what? I will never hate on that. I'll be honest.
Pandering much?
Never. You know what? Pandering. I am all for it.
I mean, I could definitely see the Brewers, and they're my NL team to root for because of how good that starting pitching is. And even without Devin Williams, they'll be okay, I think. But yeah, if I had to pick an AL team, it's the White Sox.
Wisconsin's about to go on a Tampa type run. Go three for 3 in the sports they play.
I will say though, I genuinely do feel I don't think there's a team that I'm like, oh yeah, they're just going to win it all, because the Dodgers aren't guaranteed to get past 1 game. I'd feel better about the Dodgers if they were automatically in the NLDS. I'd also feel better if they had Kershaw, even if he's had some spotty, I guess I'll use the word, postseason history. I like the Brewers pick. If the Sox can get past Houston, I like that pick a lot. And I don't think it's Tampa Bay. You can never say
Also,
you can never count that team
I will
out.
say don't sleep on Dylan Carlson if the Cardinals can get out of there.
Yeah.
And beat the Dodgers.
Kevin Cash can't do stupid things like pulling Blake Snell early. He can't get too caught up in the numbers.
I think
this
maybe
time.
honestly during that game 6, I think he may have been considering using Snell in the 9th inning if he went to game 7.
Yeah, I mean that's always you wonder that.
You
That's
play for
always
now. You don't play for something that
Yeah.
can
It's such a
happen.
Kevin Cash move, though. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
1-0 game.
You figure you probably learn from your mistakes then in that sense too. But it's an interesting question. Let's jump into what to watch for this week though, because we've got a lot of playoff matchups starting, and we'll be back on air next Sunday or Sunday-ish. We usually change the schedule a little bit during the postseason. That's to come, but we've got plenty of postseason baseball this week is the point. I don't know. I've got a lot of my mind to watch. Let's start with Jonah. What are you going to be watching?
I am going to be watching the Yankees lose.
Yankees lose.
I need it, but I can see the Yankees not, like, they should win that game. I can see them not pulling through, and I'm actually curious to see what happens in that game because it's the iconic rivalry in baseball, and I do think that it will make for more I think it will be more compelling storylines if the Red Sox can pull it out. I don't think they'll go far though.
Fair. Sam, what you watching?
I'm watching for the Cardinal Devil Magic. That's all I'm watching.
I think everyone is.
As much as I know that the Dodgers will probably win, it's the Cardinals. It's the same team that somehow won in 2011. It's the same team that somehow won in 2006. I was 10 months old at the time, but yeah, just it does not matter who's running the Cardinals. It doesn't matter how good their players are. You cannot count them out.
Is it Wainwright game 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wainwright.
And we didn't talk about this, but him coming back again next year on a $15 million deal.
It's kind of is he a Hall of Famer?
I feel like we're getting to the point where it's at least a conversation.
It's a conversation now after this season.
If you're doing what you're doing at 30, if you do it again at 40,
I think he survives a ballot. That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. These ballots have not been very kind to fringe Hall of Fame pitchers. I don't know why, because this is a different era. The problem is a lot of these pitchers. This is a tangent. I'm sorry. The problem is a lot of these pitchers have pitched in two eras. One where wins are really valuable, and now an era where people are like, actually, they're not that valuable.
There's zero value.
Exactly. So now it's like you're pitching in two different eras. Which one are you judging them off of? Wainwright's a great example of that. He's pitching an era right now at 39. No one gives a crap how many games you won. But I don't know. I think it'll be very similar to a lot of those mid tiers like the Pettits and Hudson.
If it takes Mussina 10 years, like
right. I don't think these not clear cut Hall of Famers, but also like really good ball players. The ballot has not been kind to them. So I think that's a consideration too. But Jordan, I assume you're watching the White Sox this week, but I'll let you go for it anyway.
Of course I am, and that's pretty much all I'm really going to care about at the end of the day. I am definitely going to watch the rest of the games too as well. I'll be watching the wild card games on Tuesday and Wednesday, so just to kind of see how the field's going to unfold for sure. So, but yeah, I'm going to be glued to the White Sox, and I'll try to stay in tune to it if we lose, but I think we definitely have a shot of going at all. So I'm hoping that's not the case. So, because just like Sam said, the 06-11 Cardinals, the Sox now have the manager who won those World Series now. So we have to kind of go on.
Doesn't matter who, it's still the Cardinals.
We kind of have to, because me and Jordan will be judging all his decisions throughout it, and he's the one pushing the controls. So. And we'll be hanging on every move and every pitch. For
better or for worse, he's the one pushing the controls. I've said I was harsh at first. I've softened, and I've come to the conclusion I will judge you based on how you manage the playoffs. But Jordan, will you be at any of the games?
I tried getting tickets the other day, and I was unsuccessful. Too many errors, and I will be watching from home. I know Connor and Thatcher will be there. Andrew didn't try, so I'll be watching games with him. So as fellow Diamond Digest Sox writers who are going to be in and out of attendance. Are you going to go, Jordan?
I will be there at least game 3. Hopefully, if there's a game 4, I'll be there too.
Oh yeah, you got a package, so you got access for sure. So
there's got to be game 4.
I'm assuming there's a game 4.
If that's a sweep, I will be so sad.
It's going to be hard to sweep.
I think it will be very hard for either team to sweep. I think they split in Houston, and then it's a best of 3 from there.
I'm really hoping Lynn can figure it out how to pitch in Houston. Just that team has his number, and that's where I get a little scared. But I understand whoever they pick to go game 1 because you have, if they have Lynn go game 1, you have Giolito depend on in game 2. If you go to game 1, you use Giolito for the first game, and you're hoping Lynn can win game 2, and then you're also depending on Cease or Arbadon, Kopech, Lopez Cidnero in game 4. So you really can't go wrong who you start after thinking about all the possible scenarios because of what could happen in the game 3, game 4 scenario after that.
Makes sense. I'm curious to see what happens here. I do want to make 2 comments before we sign off. Number 1, this is another prediction I forgot. Predict who wins both wild card games, and we'll start with that one. Sam, your thoughts?
I think the Yankees, and I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say the Cardinals win.
All right. Devil Magic reigns.
Devil
Jonah?
Magic.
Red Sox, Dodgers.
All right. Jordan?
White Sox, Brewers.
No. Wild card games.
Oh, the Wild. Oh, sorry. I thought both series. That was my bad. Sorry. So I think it's going to be the Yankees and the Yankees and the Dodgers.
Fair. I don't want it to be. I want it to be Red Sox Cardinals.
Same, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Chaos must reign supreme.
I think the Yankees have the edge right now with
Sale potentially, not potentially.
Yeah. The bullpen's healthy again, and Stanton and Judge are like on fire, and the Cardinals' magic's got to run out at some point,
Yeah.
and the Dodgers should probably have the better starter on the mound than the other team does that game. So,
And then the last comment I'll make that I totally missed when we were doing Around the League in 60 Seconds, Ryan Zimmerman has it's likely his retirement at this point. So he played his last game with Washington. I believe he actually announced his retirement. I'm not wrong about that, right?
I think he did.
I think
So
he
he's
did.
announced, because I did see some of the hugs and the farewell for him. So
Really took away from Alex Avila.
Is he was he the first player of the Nationals, or was he ever with an Expo?
I think he was the
First year
first
was
draft.
first year was 05.
I think he was the first draft pick of the Nationals.
That's what I thought.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
we'll have to give him a good farewell on the next episode, but I wanted to make sure we called it out there because today was his last game with the Nationals. Really cool story, start to finish, National for life. Unfortunate that they couldn't pull out the victory for it, but
You still got him a ring.
you got him a ring, exactly.
That's
and that's all I
important.
can ask for. So that's going to do it for us, folks. For those of you who stayed and tuned in live, we appreciate it. Viewership was awesome, per usual, when we get to do these live ones. So thanks for tuning in. If you're live and you're watching this, you know where to find us. Diamond-digest.com is the website. @Diamond_digest is Twitter. Make sure to follow us and follow everyone on this podcast. Their Twitter handles are listed. And Instagram, Diamond.digest. We've got playoffs coming up.
Consistency in the handles, I see.
Sorry?
So much consistency in the social media.
You know, the good news is that there's nothing wild here. Like, I know exactly. There's no, like, @BaseballNerd57 or something like that. Like, it's very clear what we're going for with these. But if you're not following everyone, do so. If you're not following Diamond Digest and you stumbled across this, we're all about writing all about baseball. And I think we've got a young, talented crew who is excited for more playoff coverage, and we'll be bringing plenty of it to you. We'll be doing, I'm sure, plenty of live streams of the games throughout the week, the Diamond Digest watch parties. We'll also be doing This Week in Baseball. Might change from Sunday nights to / Monday mornings when we usually publish them, just based on some of the schedules surrounding how long some of these playoff matchups go. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, folks, thanks for tuning in. For Sam Hicks, Jonah Keene, and Jordan Miller, this is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your night, and enjoy playoff baseball to come this week. Take care.